From failed thefts to false advertising, Plankton's Chum Bucket is less of a restaurant and more of a scam artist's playground. Let's uncover its slimy secrets. After ruining the surface-level dining experience, Plankton takes his disaster-prone restaurant underground. Let's dig into the delusion that is Chum Caverns. We kick things off with Mr. Krabs at his finest, terrorizing his customers for a few extra bucks. He's enforcing a mandatory side of fries policy, which feels illegal even by Krusty Krab standards. A poor sap walks in just to browse the menu, and Mr. Krabs' solution? Yep, slap some bloody handcuffs on the poor bastard and force him into a meal plan he didn't sign up for. Business ethics? Never heard of them! In the kitchen, SpongeBob's flipping patties like his life depends on it, because let's face it, it does. Krabs hands him not one, but two spatulas, because why exploit your fry cook halfway when you can double down on unpaid labor? Meanwhile, back in his office, Krabs trips over a loose floorboard, accidentally revealing his secret formula's hiding spot. Obviously, Madude panics and secures it with the marine equivalent of duct tape, a couple of nails, and a hammer. It's foolproof! Or it would be if Plankton weren't literally spying on him through a telescope the size of a skyscraper. Subtlety, thy name is not Plankton. Once Plankton realizes the secret formula is chilling under a few flimsy floorboards, he hatches a plan because what else does he do? His genius idea?
I knew this baby would come in handy. Turn on the navigation system, honey. Let's get this show on the road.
Dig 50 meters, then turn right.
Of course, shit goes south when he crashes into a boulder, forcing him to dig even deeper, where he discovers a secret underground cave. But this isn't your average damp hole in the ground. It's a glittering wonderland straight out of a National Geographic spread. Planky Boy is pretty pleased with himself. Enter the Cave Dwellers, primitive creatures who look like they wandered out of the Flintstones. Instead of panicking, Plankton pulls out a whip and tames them. Why does he have a whip? Don't ask. Just know it works, and these prehistoric weirdos are now his employees. Plankton's plan, technically the wifey's, but nobody's keeping score here, is in motion. Customers are flocking to the Chum Bucket's shiny new cave attraction. Mr. Krabs decides to crash the party and sell Krabby Patties down there. This sets off a full-on bloody turf war. You get the gist. They're digging themselves deeper than I am with this shitty pun. Eventually, their bickering backfires and both end up trapped in the cave. Cue the dramatic realization that their feud has gone too far. They agree to work together to escape, but let's be real, we all know that's not happening. SpongeBob, the ever-loyal doormat, shows up to save them, only for Plankton to double-cross Krabs the second they're above ground. But karma's got a bitchy sense of humor, and Plankton's antics trigger a chain reaction. The Krusty Krab, Chum Bucket, and half of Bikini Bottom's residents end up tumbling into the cave. Now everyone's stuck underground with nothing but Krabby Patties and chum to eat. Lovely. Krabs makes the best of it, declaring the cave an extension of the Krusty Krab, but with no Squidward around, someone has to play cashier.
But without Squidward, I need someone to work the register.
Enter Plankton, who gets roped into the role thanks to the whip-happy cave dwellers. The episode ends with him begrudgingly ringing up customers, proving once again that in Bikini Bottom, karma's a bigger player than SpongeBob himself. Let's talk crimes because Plankton's been busy. Trespassing. Digging under someone else's restaurant? Yeah, that's illegal. Destruction of property. Altering an underground cave system probably violates about 17 environmental laws. False advertising. Selling chum as a delicacy? That's a scam if I've ever seen one. Health code violations. An underground restaurant run by cavemen? The health inspector's gonna have a field day. Sentencing the one-eyed menace. If we're slapping Plankton with real-world consequences, here's the breakdown. Trespassing, $100 to $1,000 fine. Destruction of property, $1,000 to $10,000 depending on how much that cave's worth. False advertising, another $1,000 to $5,000. Health code violations, $500 to $5,000 and possibly a shutdown notice. Total fines anywhere from $2,600 to $21,000. Maybe it's time to hang up the evil genius gig, Plankton. You're broke, stuck in a cave, and now the unwilling face of customer service. Ain't that poetic justice? In Squilliam Returns, Squidward fakes his entire life to impress his nemesis, but let's be honest, who does the Chum Bucket's favorite thing better than Plankton? Deceit is practically his middle name. Squidward's day off is rudely interrupted by Squilliam Fancyson, his old high school nemesis and walking embodiment of the phrase, "money can't buy you class." Squilliam, flanked by his loyal band of ego boosters, demands to know what Squidward has achieved since high school. Panicked, Squidward lies through his teeth, claiming he owns a 5-star restaurant.
I own a 5-star restaurant!
Naturally, Squilliam decides he'll drop by for dinner that night, and Squidward is left with a kind of existential dread reserved for people who just got caught lying on their resumes. Cue Squidward groveling at Mr. Krabs' feet, begging for control of the Krusty Krab for the evening. Surprisingly, Krabs agrees, not out of the kindness of his crustaceous heart, but because Squilliam is loaded and Krabs can practically hear his wallet fattening with every passing second. Oh no, he's hot! What follows is a classic case of fake it till you make it. Except no one here knows how to make it. Squidward tries to whip the Krusty Krab crew into shape. Patrick, confused but ever eager, shows up for what he thinks is boot camp and gets assigned to collect hats. His approach? Beating the hat rack senseless because it refused to give him its hats. Mr. Krabs, who apparently once worked on a ship called the SS Gourmet, spoiler, he was the janitor, makes appetizers out of literal garbage. And SpongeBob? He's handed a manual titled How to Become a Fancy Waiter in Less Than 20 Minutes, which might as well be titled How to Break SpongeBob's Brain in Record Time. Squidward, exuding the energy of a man who has given up on his team and himself, instructs SpongeBob to forget everything except fine dining and breathing.
Now, I want you to empty your mind.
Empty my mind?
Empty your mind.
Empty my mind.
Inside SpongeBob's mind, the miniature SpongeBobs running the show take this order very literally, dumping all his memories, including his own name, into the abyss. Despite this chaos, when Squilliam arrives, the Krusty Krab somehow looks like a Michelin-starred restaurant. Turns out SpongeBob tied up Patrick and Mr. Krabs to prevent further disasters and single-handedly transformed the place.
How did you do all this?
It was easy, once I cleared my mind.
But what about Krabs and Patrick?
Taken care of.
Squilliam is impressed and asks SpongeBob his name. But alas, SpongeBob's mind has turned into a smoldering heap of fine dining and nothing else.
The fork on the left?
Stop joking. Tell him your name.
My name? What's his name? What's his name? I got nothing on a name!
Without his name, he spirals into madness, spilling food, grating diners' butts, and setting the appetizer monster, yes, that's a thing, loose on the restaurant. The Krusty Krab's 5-star facade crumbles into its usual grease-stained glory. Squidward, defeated, admits to Squilliam that he's just a cashier. But Squilliam isn't done being the human version of salt in the wound. He pretends to confess that he's also a cashier, only to reveal,
Of course not! I'm filthy stinking red!
before floating away in his literal balloon casino. As Squidward wallows in despair, Mr. Krabs plays the world's smallest violin, proving that even in misery, Squidward can't catch a break. Crimes committed. Fraud. Squidward. Faking ownership of a 5-star restaurant to impress Squilliam. Squidward's delusions of grandeur could get him slapped with a fraud charge if anyone bothered to press it. Disturbing the peace. The absolute pandemonium inside the Krusty Krab, from Patrick's hat rack assault to SpongeBob's mental breakdown, creates enough noise and chaos to warrant some noise complaints. Assault, indirect, SpongeBob. SpongeBob's memory-wiped rampage could arguably qualify as indirect assault. I mean, grated butt cheeks aren't a victimless crime. Health code violations, Mr. Krabs. Serving food that's more dumpster than delicacy? Yeah, health inspectors would have a field day with this one. Potential sentences? Fraud. Squidward fines between $1,000 and $5,000 for his fancy restaurant lie. Disturbing the peace. Squidward or SpongeBob could face fines of $500 to $2,500. Squidward's desperate need to impress Squilliam ends in financial ruin, psychological breakdowns, and grated buttocks. Classic. Plankton's version of fun isn't about friendship. It's about fooling SpongeBob into handing over the Krabby Patty formula. But what else would you expect from Bikini Bottom's biggest liar? We open at the Krusty Krab, where business is humming along with its usual efficiency. More like SpongeBob's maniacal enthusiasm paired with Squidward's total disdain for life. Suddenly, alarms blare signaling that Plankton is up to his usual antics. It's a move so extra, it's almost admirable. Plankton busts out a laser and blows a hole in the door to make his escape, Krabby Patty in tow. But SpongeBob, the square-shaped Terminator of fast food, chases him across Bikini Bottom. Here's where things take a bizarrely wholesome turn. That's right, our Spongy Boy feels sorry for Plankton. Yes, for the same guy whose life revolves around literal food theft. Deciding that what Plankton needs isn't incarceration but friendship, SpongeBob invites him to go jellyfishing. Because nothing says we're bonding like dodging electrified sea creatures. Naturally, Plankton smells an opportunity. With a little encouragement from Karen, whose sarcasm deserves its own Emmy, he agrees to tag along, fully intending to exploit SpongeBob's naivete. Cue the fun song, one of the catchiest and most unhinged musical numbers in cartoon history.
F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. N is for anywhere and anytime at all.
Down here in the deep blue sea.
At first, Plankton hijacks the tune with violent lyrics about explosions and annihilation, but he slowly starts to enjoy himself. As SpongeBob serenades him with the joys of togetherness, something stirs in Plankton's tiny, scheming heart. Is it actual fun? Or just gas? By the end of their outing, Plankton seems genuinely moved, even forgetting about his quest for the Krabby Patty formula.
What did you do with the Krabby Patty?
Either one.
The Krabby Patty, remember?
You can't rush these things, you know.
But of course, Mr. Krabs ain't buying it. He's convinced that Plankton's transformation is faker than a kelp smoothie cleanse, so he sets up a trap. The next day, when Plankton visits the Krusty Krab to see SpongeBob, Krabs dangles a Krabby Patty in front of him like bait. Shockingly, Plankton doesn't react. Instead, he just sits there looking almost peaceful? SpongeBob is thrilled. Mr. Krabs is suspicious. And I'm just sitting here screaming, "Don't fall for it, SpongeBob!" Later, the pair head to the Reef Cinema for a buddy-buddy movie night. Everything seems fine until Mr. Krabs bursts onto the scene like a dollar-obsessed SWAT team. Betrayal, heartbreak, chaos. Plankton's kleptomaniac instincts get the better of him, and he bolts with the patty, dramatically tearing through the movie screen. Unfortunately, his escape is cut short when he smashes into a concrete wall backstage, leaving him flattened like a microwaved pancake. Our Spongy Boy is crushed, emotionally, not physically. Mr. Krabs reassures him that the true victor here is capitalism. They head back to the Krusty Krab for a fresh patty while Plankton's lifeless form gets flicked onto Bubble Bass's hand. Mistaking him for a jelly bean, Bubble Bass starts chasing him around, and the episode ends with Plankton screaming for his life. Sentences: fraud, Plankton. Fines ranging from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on the extent of emotional and financial damage caused to SpongeBob and the Krusty Krab. Conspiracy to commit theft, Plankton. Potential fines of $1,000 to $10,000 plus mandatory community service, like cleaning up jellyfish fields. Moral of the story, don't trust Plankton, not even when he's singing about friendship. And maybe hire a better security system for the Krusty Krab. Lasers? Really, Mr. Krabs? SpongeBob's got a new look, but it's not exactly the makeover of the century. In The Krusty Sponge, Plankton's plan to steal the formula just got way too weird. The episode starts with Squidward noticing that SpongeBob is too frozen in anxiety to flip patties. Mr. Krabs discovers that SpongeBob's mini calendar has today marked as Important Food Critic Visits Krusty Krab, and that alone has sent SpongeBob into a full-on existential crisis. Squidward dismisses this with his usual Squidwardy disdain. That's practically an engraved invitation for chaos. Enter Gene Scallop, the snootiest food critic this side of Bikini Bottom. Squidward, bless his tentacles, can't help but sass the guy to within an inch of his life, nearly driving him out the door. So after that one dramatic bite, Gene exits without a word, leaving the entire crew and the Krusty Krab's financial future hanging in suspense. But plot twist, Gene's review turns out to be a roller coaster. So Gene praises SpongeBob's culinary skills and declares the Krabby Patty a triumph. Crisis averted. Or so we think. The next day, SpongeBob arrives to find his face plastered on everything. Yep, Krabs has renamed the place the Krusty Sponge, complete with SpongeBob-themed merchandise, a mascot costume modeled by a deeply unenthused Squidward, and a train ride powered by SpongeBob's sheer exhaustion. Squidward is not feeling the corporate shenanigans and hisses at SpongeBob like a cornered alley cat.
Where did you find those shoes?
Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs is on a merch-buying spree. SpongeBob-shaped ice cubes? Check. Drinking straws? You bet. Bibs? Naturally. Squidward's side-eye grows more intense by the minute, especially when Krabs decides to launch a new menu item, Spongy Patties. Yes, Mr. Krabs serves rotten meat because his fridge is too full of SpongeBob ice cubes. And in true bloody Mr. Krabs fashion, he doubles the price. Things spiral from there. SpongeBob collapses from pedaling the train only to be mistaken for a fake SpongeBob by passengers demanding their money's worth. Meanwhile, the customers who have eaten the spongy patties turn a sickly yellow with green spots and start writhing in pain. When SpongeBob discovers the chaos inside, Mr. Krabs mistakes the ailing customers for zombies trying to eat his money.
Zombies! They're here to eat me money!
SpongeBob finally confronts Mr. Krabs, declaring that he's poisoned all their customers. Just as the gravity of his actions start to sink in, one of the sick customers reveals himself to be an undercover cop and promptly arrests Mr. Krabs. In court, Mr. Krabs is hit with a guilt trip of epic proportions as Gene Scallop presides over the jury. Krabs accepts his sentence with surprising humility until he notices the judge's SpongeBob-themed gavel. Sniffing opportunity, Mr. Krabs strikes a deal. SpongeBob returns to cooking, Squidward becomes the judge's personal train chauffeur for the day, and Krabs avoids prison. Squidward, of course, is left joylessly pedaling while the Krusty Krab resets to its usual brand of madness. Crimes committed. Health code violations. Serving spoiled food that turns customers into walking biohazards. False advertising. Marketing rotten patties as safe and edible. Negligent endangerment. Prioritizing profit over public health and safety. Destruction of property. If the ensuing chaos damaged restaurant property, add this to the tally. Possible sentences: health code violations, fines ranging from $500 to $5,000, and mandatory shutdown until compliance. False advertising, fines from $1,000 to $5,000 for misleading customers. Negligent endangerment, misdemeanor charges up to $2,500 in fines and potential community service. Destruction of property, additional fines between $1,000 and $5,000 depending on damages. Total potential damage between $3,500 and $17,500 in fines, plus the priceless damage to SpongeBob's mental health and Squidward's last shred of dignity. The Krusty Sponge is a masterclass in corporate greed gone too far. Mr. Krabs' insatiable thirst for profit takes a turn for the toxic, and Bikini Bottom pays the price. What could possibly go wrong when you give Krabby Patties a cult following? Everything. Welcome to the chaos of patty hype, where the pressure's on and the patties are poppin'. The Krusty Krab is in shambles, literally. It hasn't seen a single customer in 36 days, and the place looks more like a Halloween decoration than a restaurant. Dust? Check. Cobwebs? Double check. Skeleton? Oh, you bet. Enter Incidental 42, who crawls in like he just escaped a shipwreck, claiming he hasn't eaten in 3 days. But this is Bikini Bottom, where starvation is apparently negotiable. Mr. Krabs refuses to serve him a meal until verifying he can pay. Classic Krabs. When SpongeBob serves up some food, Incidental 42 scoffs at the lack of pizzazz and resumes his quest for sustenance, hydration, and atmosphere. Mr. Krabs, ever the visionary, overhears a conversation about a talking dog performing at the Shell Shack.
Fred! Hey, you want to eat at the Krusty Krab?
Nah, let's go to the Shell Shack. They've got a talking dog.
Deciding he needs a gimmick, he bypasses anything sensible and goes straight to burying himself alive. Sure, it draws a crowd, but the moment they hear the talking dog sings too, they ditch faster than Krabs can shout, "Wait, I'm still underground!" Meanwhile, SpongeBob has been trying to pitch an idea, but Krabs won't hear it. That is, until SpongeBob descends from the heavens like a mustard yellow angel with a green patty. Krabs assumes it's spoiled and nearly torches it before SpongeBob reveals his masterstroke, Pretty Patties. These are Krabby Patties in a range of 6 designer colors. which sounds more like a gimmick for toenail polish, but okay. Krabs and Squidward burst out laughing, mocking SpongeBob for what they see as culinary clownery. Hurt but determined, SpongeBob quits his job to prove them wrong and vows to sell Pretty Patties on his own.
I know this is a good idea. I'll show you. I'll open my own restaurant.
And that's how you turn workplace bullying into entrepreneurial fuel. With Patrick by his side, SpongeBob sets up shop in front of his house. At first, Pretty Patties are a flop, with customers laughing off the spoiled look. Just when SpongeBob is ready to hang up his spatula, one passerby spots a purple patty, his favorite color. And suddenly, Pretty Patties are the next big thing. Cue the montage of Bikini Bottom residents lining up around the block to grab their multicolored lunch. Back at the Krusty Krab, Krabs watches this from his cobwebbed throne of failure. When SpongeBob admits on TV that he and Patrick have no idea what to do with their cash, Krabs smells opportunity. SpongeBob and Patrick toyed with shredding, burning, or burying the money, but settled on giving it away at a free money stand, capitalism's ultimate Uno reverse card. Krabs rushes over to the Pretty Patty stand, wades through a mob of 46,853 customers, give or take, and shamelessly congratulates SpongeBob. Turns out SpongeBob misses the Krusty Krab, and Krabs sees an opening. He convinces SpongeBob to trade Pretty Patties for the Krusty Krab's key. SpongeBob, ever the sentimental fool, agrees. Cut to SpongeBob frolicking in his beloved squeaky pickle-filled kitchen while Krabs gleefully prepares to swim in his newfound riches. But Bikini Bottom's love for Pretty Patties is short-lived. The customers return in droves, this time as an angry rainbow-colored mob. Turns out the Pretty Patties have a side effect. Whatever color you ate turns part of your body that color. Glowing tongues, purple arms, green faces, it's like a Technicolor plague. The mob demands refunds, but Mr. Krabs, proving he's consistent in his cowardness, disappears into the night. The mob chases him down, leaving a rainbow trail of chaos in their wake. As Krabs tries to escape, he reaches the Krusty Krab and fumbles for the key. All right, he gave it to SpongeBob. Inside, SpongeBob is too busy serenading his squeaky pickles to notice the mob or Krabs' desperate pleas. And so, Mr. Krabs gets his karmic comeuppance while SpongeBob blissfully squeaks away, proving once again that blind optimism sometimes wins. When you've got a job to do, sometimes the biggest threats come from within. Let's see how it all unravels in The Inside Job. The episode begins with Plankton aiming for Mr. Krabs' brain to snag the Krabby Patty formula. Karen's locked, loaded, and ready to launch him like a micro-missile. Except SpongeBob's cardboard Mr. Krabs decoy throws everything off. Instead of landing in Krab's brain, Plankton winds up in SpongeBob's, then blames Karen's aim. Jeez, these two, it's like watching a damn soap opera. Now inside, Plankton gets to work. First stop, SpongeBob's optical system. His plan? Watch how the patties are made. Reality? Honestly, just friggin' creepy. SpongeBob starts whipping up unholy abominations made of cleaning supplies, turning the Krusty Krab into a health inspector's fever dream. When that fails, Plankton heads for SpongeBob's ear to listen for the secret recipe. But Krab's megaphone yelling obliterates him out of the sound system, restoring SpongeBob's hearing and leaving Plankton scrambling for a new approach.
Our secret to the Krabby Patty formula is...
Finally, Plankton makes it to the command center, SpongeBob's brain. Inside, it's a pink spaghetti-like mess complete with a brain noodle Gary. Just, ugh. So much for scientific accuracy. In a stroke of pure cartoon logic, he discovers SpongeBob's heart holds the formula. He taps in and Plankton gets a full SpongeBob makeover. Cue Karen calling for an update. New SpongeBob Plankton, now oozing SpongeBob's goody-two-shoes personality, refuses to steal the recipe because that would be wrong. Karen turns his brain-scanning helmet into a propeller and yanks him out of SpongeBob, but not before things get even more ridiculous. One accidental brain suck later, Plankton's transformed into a Patrick clone, complete with the same vacant stare and a brain running on one neuron. Karen grabs Plankton off Patrick, but now he's too stupid to remember the formula. Mission failed. Plankton's rap sheet? Let's tally up the crimes, shall we? Invasion of privacy. Hijacking SpongeBob's brain? Yeah, that's a massive violation of personal space. Potential sentence, $1,000 to $5,000 in fines. Plankton's entire goal was to steal the Krabby Patty recipe. That's intellectual property theft, plain and simple. Plankton ends the episode more deranged than when he started, both figuratively and literally, proving yet again that crime doesn't pay. Well, unless you're Karen, who probably deserves a raise for dealing with her husband's nonsense. And the Krusty Krab training video will either prepare you for greatness or send you running for the hills. From humble beginnings. We kick off with Eugene H. Krabs' rags to riches origin story. Turns out Krabs' genius business plan was converting a rundown retirement home into a grease pit. Post-war depression? Forget therapy. Capitalism will heal your soul. What a role model. Anyone else notice the brick? The Krusty Krab today. Next, we get a look at the state-of-the-art Krusty Krab, where tech breakthroughs like a cash register that's older than dirt and a spatula SpongeBob probably found on the beach somehow keep the place afloat. SpongeBob, our golden boy, plays the eager employee who can do no wrong. Squidward, on the other hand, is cast as Exhibit A of what not to do. Basically a walking HR violation waiting to happen. But what does poop mean? This is where the real magic happens. Poop. Because nothing inspires confidence in a dining establishment quite like a forced acronym that sounds like... well, you get it. SpongeBob embraces it like it's gospel, while Squidward looks like he's already planning his next sick day. Personal hygiene? The hygiene standards are strict, to say the least. Our spongy boy is all in, scrubbing himself squeaky clean with enough soap to sanitize an entire shipwreck. Squidward, let's just say the health inspector might have a word with him about his personal aroma. Your workstation. Keeping a tidy station is key to employee success, or so we're told. SpongeBob keeps everything spotless while Squidward's side looks like a crime scene. Honestly, if the Krusty Krab has passed even one health inspection, I'll eat my non-existent hat. Interfacing with your boss and crustomers. Here, we're shown...
Mr. Krabs, can I have a raise?
No.
What did you expect? Krabs' answer is always no unless you've got a death wish, or a union lawyer on speed dial. Emergency situations. Finally, we see Plankton stage left with yet another harebrained scheme to swipe the Krabby Patty formula. The narrator advises employees to remember poop when dealing with theft. Yeah, because that acronym is totally going to fend off a criminal mastermind with a robot. Yeah, that went as expected. Crimes committed. Let's break down the legal chaos brewing beneath this seemingly innocent training video. Health code violations? Mr. Krabs puts on a show about cleanliness, but we all know the truth. This place is a lawsuit waiting to happen. If SpongeBob's overzealous sanitizing doesn't cover it, Squidward's neglect surely will. False advertising. The video paints the Krusty Krab as a 5-star establishment. In reality, it's one step away from being condemned. Negligent endangerment. The lack of proper safety tools, a disaster in the making. If SpongeBob gets injured trying to fend off Plankton, that's on Mr. Krabs. Employee law violations. Overworking employees, underpaying them, and ignoring their mental health, check, and double check. Sentencing the real villains. If Bikini Bottom's legal system actually functioned, here's what we'd be looking at. Health code violations, Mr. Krabs. Fines ranging from $500 to $5,000. That's pocket change for Krabs, but it's still a slap on the claw. False advertising, Mr. Krabs. Another $1,000 to $5,000 for those misleading claims. Final thoughts? The Krusty Krab training video is less of a training tool and more of a cautionary tale about workplace exploitation. But hey, at least SpongeBob's enthusiasm is infectious. Too bad it's wasted on a boss who cares more about money than morals. Plankton's Army. One tiny villain to an army of chaos, Plankton's plan to steal the Krabby Patty formula is about to get a lot more complicated. The episode begins with Mr. Krabs gleefully announcing that it's been 25 years since Plankton's first pathetic attempt to steal the Krabby Patty formula.
Today's the 25th anniversary of the first time me archenemy Plankton ever tried to steal me secret Krabby Patty formula.
Sheldon J. Plankton trades his usual solo heist shenanigans for a full-blown family reunion/crime spree. It's like someone dared him to combine Ocean's 11 with Deliverance, and boy, did he deliver. Just not in the way anyone hoped. So Mr. Krabs flushes him down the toilet like yesterday's Chum. Back at the Chum bucket, Karen suggests Plankton hire help for his criminal escapades. After bombing at the local thug nightclub, seriously, how did he even get in? Plankton has a eureka moment. Family. Cue the arrival of his extended clan. Plankton, realizing his gene pool has more algae than brilliance, rolls with it anyway. After promising them unlimited root beer, because that's what motivates a redneck Plankton army, he lays out his grand plan to storm the Krusty Krab. At closing time, Plankton, or should we say Sheldon, and his kin launch their assault on the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs and Squidward end up literally trapped in the bathroom, leaving the Krabby Patty safe wide open. Plankton finally snatches the formula and reads it aloud in triumph.
A pinch of salt, 3 teaspoons of chopped onions, a cup of love, mixed together with the most important ingredient of all, 4 heaping pounds of freshly ground plankton?
Wait, what? The last ingredient turns Plankton's victory into an existential crisis. Realizing the secret formula is essentially a Plankton genocide recipe, Plankton screams in horror and bolts back to the Chum bucket, his family in tow. Well, all except Clem, he's too illiterate to read the recipe. As SpongeBob casually strolls out from the restroom, seriously, what was he cleaning that took that long? Mr. Krabs gloats that the formula Plankton read was a fake. The real one? It's hidden in the least creative spot imaginable, under Mr. Krabs' mattress at home. Squidward immediately guesses its location.
Let me guess. It's at home, under your mattress.
Sending Krabs screaming out of the door to protect his secret. Crimes committed by Plankton and Company. Conspiracy to commit theft. Rallying your entire family to steal a secret recipe isn't just tacky, it's illegal. Plankton could face fines of up to $10,000 for organizing this mess. Indirect assault. The chaos caused during their invasion probably gave Squidward a few more gray hairs. Charges anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 in fines. Plankton may have a genius IQ, but his relatives, not so much. If there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's this. Sometimes the real enemy isn't your nemesis, it's bad genetics. Also, a good lie can F up an entire operation. Plankton's about to turn the Chum bucket into the hottest spot in Bikini Bottom, whether anyone likes it or not. The episode kicks off with 2 customers parking at the Chum bucket. Not to eat there, duh, but because the Krusty Krab lot is full. Plankton gets his hopes up to new levels of Delulu before reality smacks him square in the face. Karen then suggests he try advertising for real customers. Enter Plankton's first attempt at a slogan. After burning our eyes with that crappy attempt at dancing, we see Patrick's brain literally start to overheat just trying to read it. Cue Patrick rearranging the letters to create
Chum is fun!
It's nonsensical, it's ridiculous, and somehow it's perfect. People start flooding the Chum bucket, chanting the slogan like it's some kind of cult mantra, all while choking down the literal garbage that is Chum. And just like that, Patrick becomes Plankton's new slogan mastermind. Over at the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs assumes the sudden surge in Chum bucket customers means Plankton's finally stolen the Krabby Patty formula. He and SpongeBob go undercover in what can only be described as the most pathetic disguises ever. When they get inside the Chum bucket, they discover the horrifying truth. It's not the food, it's the bloody slogan.
Chum is fun!
Customers are happily eating chum while shouting "Chum is fum," as if repeating it makes it taste better. Meanwhile, Plankton's genius slogan writing strategy boils down to writing "Chum is fum" 1,000 different ways. A few days later, the novelty of "Chum is fum" wears off, and Plankton's customers begin to disappear. Patrick, in a burst of creativity, as in flipping the words around, comes up with the revolutionary new slogan, "Fum is chum." It's just enough to reignite the frenzy, turning the Chum bucket into a viral sensation. Business booms, Plankton lands in the restaurant magazines, and even a hockey team shows up to celebrate. For once, it seems like Plankton has actually won. But then, Patrick quits his job as slogan manager, citing burnout, complete with a literal burn hole in his head. Plankton panics and tries to bluff, claiming he doesn't need Patrick to keep the Chum bucket afloat. In a classic Plankton move, he takes things too far, accidentally insulting his entire customer base over the intercom.
I sell them. They're the dumbest of the dumb. The stupidest of the stupid.
With his reputation in the shitter, the Chum Bucket loses all its patrons, leaving Plankton right back where he started. In the end, we see Patrick unveiling the Krusty Krab's new slogan, Krabby Patties are fum. The customers return to their original greasy spoon, and Patrick's brain smokes once more, solidifying that even when he's winning, he's still Patrick. Crimes committed by Plankton. False advertising. Claiming Chum is metabolic fuel and then selling literal sludge, that's textbook false advertising. Fines $1,000 to $5,000. Health code violations. Let's face it, Chum is probably a biohazard. Serving it to customers should come with at least $500 to $5,000 in fines, if not a full restaurant shutdown. Turns out being a slogan savage is a double-edged sword when your brain literally starts smoking from the effort. Let's hope the Chum Bucket customers enjoyed their fum while it lasted. But hey, I'm just a guy who likes cartoons. Catch you in the next video.